Welcome back to AG's Room, Beyond the Ballot, a civic conversation about Nigeria's future. I am your host, Julius Okache. Tonight, we are sitting with a question that lives in the inbox of every Nigerian abroad. It arrives on Sunday evening. Sometimes it's a voice note from your mom. Sometimes it's a brother asking about school fees. Sometimes it's just a name flashing on your phone. And you already know what the conversation will be about before you pick up. You send, you always send. Because not sending is not really an option. Not in any moral universe most of us grew up in. And when you're sending, sometimes something else is happening that nobody talks about. You are quietly, month by month, transfer by transfer, doing the job the Nigerian state has refused to do. You're funding the education ministry. You're running a private healthcare scheme of one. You're paying the rent that local wages cannot cover. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. A government that doesn't have to deliver schools, doesn't have to deliver hospitals, doesn't have to deliver jobs. Because somebody's daughter in Canada, London, New York, Texas, different part of Europe, Asia, or somewhere abroad is covering it. It's a government that has been quietly relieved of its duty. We send ourselves abroad to escape bad governance. And tonight, we're asking whether the act of escaping is what allows the bad governance to continue. This conversation is not going to make anyone feel good. It is not going to tell anyone to stop sending money home. That would be cruel and stupid. What it is going to do is ask a hard question. What kind of leverage do 20 million people have? And why have we never used it? I am joined tonight by my two guests, always co-hosting with me and sharing their great thoughts. People I respect deeply, all living in different parts of the diaspora, all of whom have been thinking about this problem far longer than this episode allows. Let me introduce them. So welcome today, Dr. Abiye Tubbs and Ms. Vivian Ulinwa. I want to get this going. Welcome, guys, to the talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julius. Well done.
I want to start with a question. I think every Nigerian abroad has asked themselves quietly, even if we have never said it out loud. So, Vivian, when you send money home, and be honest with me, who do you actually believe you are helping? Your family or the country?
When I do send money, I honestly do think I'm helping whomever I'm sending it to. It could be my sisters, it could be friends. I think I'm helping them meet whatever need that they wanted to meet at that time.
So if they say, if you not say it's your family that you're sending and you're trying to help them, your family lives inside the country. Doesn't helping them mean questioning the country? If you're helping your family, are you not trying to help the country solve the problems?
I think at the end of the day, it's helping the country, but the primary person who I'm helping, of course, it's my family. I see why you would say it's helping the country, but that's probably not my intention, but maybe that's what it does at the end of the day. But the primary person I'm helping is the family member in question.
What about you, Dr. Abiye? If I put the same question to you in a different angle, have you ever resented having to send money home?
I wouldn't quite use the word resent, but there are times where I think because of my penchant towards accountability, I have effectively, given keen thought to why and what sort of impact I am having in that sense. So, if you permit me to speak, something just came to mind. I remember during as part of my academic journey, one of the common themes that we'll cover, or theories that we covered then relating to sustainability. So one of the things that will come up in research is something called Jevons paradox. And essentially a theory that relating to when you apply it to sustainability, essentially there's this drive for us to be more sustainable, use less to achieve more. But what typically happens is when you make those gains by using less to achieve more, consumption increases. And because consumption increases, you end up in the same cycle again. And in this case, it's that question of perhaps a better way of framing the question in what kind of equilibrium are we creating and who's benefiting from the equilibrium? Because like Vivian is insinuating, we're trying to, I wouldn't necessarily use the word help, but in reality, sometimes he is helping. Let's not, quote it, whether it's from a moral perspective or from any other perspective, you're helping. That's what remittances do. That's how they're captured. But in helping, you're then creating an insulation against bad governance. And that insulation then means that people's decision making becomes not quite a reflection of their experience of bad governance, and the cycle continues. So we're balancing the system, but we're balancing it, I don't know, with bad outcomes, unfortunately.
That's quite a good take. So when did you, Dr. Abia, when did you first realize that what you were doing was bigger than just helping family? When did you first notice that scale of what the diaspora is actually carrying? Because we had a discussion, and that's when you came up with this very good topic. I know you've written a very good publications about this, and I read the material and I was really impressed. And I see from where the issues really lie. So when did you first notice the scale of what the diaspora is actually carrying?
I think my, would I say, eureka moment was probably around 2022, when I looked at the elections. And it was probably the question, was it a Ghanaian pastor or something that went viral for saying, oh, if Peter Obi was a Ghanaian or something, we won't even ask him to contest. We will just give him the presidency because it's a no-brainer, that kind of thing. And I remember thinking, so why are we, then having an issue around this? Because every Nigerian you talk to seems to be, oh, I'm not satisfied, this country is not working, etc. But at the same time, when they have the opportunity to do something right, in quote, or do something that seems to be right, or different from what we've been doing, we sort of, people sort of pull back and fight against it. And then you ask the question, why? So, and that led me to conversations with many of my friends where I think I was in Luton for a friend's burial. And it suddenly, we're having a discussion, and it hit me because then you look at the number of people in diaspora, the amount of remittances. I think at that time, the UK used to be about 15 or so billion. Even up till now, the UK is still the highest contributors in terms of remittances back to Nigeria. The Canadians are very stingy people. I'm sorry, Vivian, compared to it. But it just hit me, and I thought, what are we using our capacity for? And why are Nigerians, why are societies like this? So that I would say was sort of my eureka moment. If there's an opportunity to do something different, and not just with Peter Obi, with many other things, if there's an opportunity to do something different, why are people reluctant? And I did make some really strong positions, but I will hold them. But yeah. So
hold those thoughts in your head, because before we go any deeper into emotional reality, we need to look at the numbers. And the numbers are bigger than most people realize. Let me put some numbers on the table. According to the World Bank, Nigeria has been one of the largest remittance receiving countries in the world for over a decade. Typically, the largest in sub-Saharan Africa. Annual remittance inflow have, in multiple recent years, exceeded $20 billion. That is several times larger than the country's foreign direct investment. Let me say that again, because the number is so big, it's not registering. The Nigerian diaspora put more hard currency into Nigeria every year than every
I think there's an echo somewhere. You might need to go through that. I'm muting, but there's an echo coming.
Vivian, can you mute yourself? So let me say that again, because the number is so big, it's not registering. The Nigerian diaspora put more hard currency into Nigeria every year than every multinational, every investor, every foreign company combined. So Vivian, let me come to you. When you heard that number, $20 billion a year, exceeding FDI by multiple, what is your first reaction? Is it pride? Is it a horror? Or is it something in between?
When I was doing my research for this interview, that's the first time I came in contact, or that's the first time I would say that I saw what the figure was. I've always heard about the diaspora remittance, but I didn't know how much it was. I probably have seen it, but I just didn't pay attention. And I think from what I saw, it was over $20 billion. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. I think it was even more shocking when I realized that it contributes 4 to 5% of our GDP. And at that point, it was like, that's why when I said earlier that when I send money home, I'm thinking, oh, I'm helping my sisters or my friends or just doing something for my family. But when you put the numbers together, it all adds up, and it tells you that you're a very important, you're a big contributor to the Nigeria's GDP. When I see that number, it's shocking, and it feels good. But at the end of the day, I fear that it's going to get to a point where there will be an over-reliance on people abroad to continue sustaining the needs of people who live in Nigeria. I don't know how long that can run for. I don't know if it's sustainable. it looks like it's sustainable. As long as there will be Nigerians abroad, the money will keep coming. But I don't know how long it's going to last for.
Okay, here is how I've started thinking about it lately. If Diaspora Remittance were a federal ministry in Abuja, they would be one of the best funded ministry in the country. The difference is this ministry doesn't have a budget. It doesn't have a minister. It doesn't have corruption probe. It just runs. Does that framing land for you, Dr. Abiye?
I was just thinking about what Vivian was saying, and I think the point where I am, and this is radical, I know you guys may not agree with it, is one, a realization of power that is underutilized or not utilized, but more importantly, the fact that many of our good or much of our good intentions have become the protective shells for your corrupt politicians, and I'll explain why. 45% of your GDP, from an economist point of view, is not necessarily, the biggest thing. But this is why it's crucial. It's almost like a business. You can have significant capital, make significant revenues, but if your cash flow is bad or erratic, that business will go under. That's why we say cash is king. The remittance that is provided to Nigerians is the cash flow for a significant part of your economy. So that 45% of your GDP doesn't tell the full story. It's the fact that every month, the money to feed, clothe, rent, live, for many people, flows in. And because that cash flow circulates within the system, what you then have is money that politicians are supposed to spend and circulate within the system. They can afford to take out of the system and divert elsewhere, store and keep. So if Vivian does not send money to her sisters for 3 months and they have no other income, they start looking at where money or opportunities were supposed to come from. So that lifeline, if I don't send money to my mom for a month, she's in trouble. And I'm sorry to say that, it sounds bad, but that's the truth. She's not working, etc. Society is supposed to care for her if she's put into society, but she can't do that. So I'm trying to say that there is power. There is power, almost like, the way the politicians give money to thugs and control them. People in diaspora have even more influence or impact. But you talk about accountability. There's no formal system apart from the corrupt facade that is set up as diaspora coordinator, etc. But more importantly, that power is not being tendered to anything. It's not being tied to anything. It's not being used to influence. And I think that's because when we talk about the initiative for this, it's also about relating to civic awareness and how we're doing, elections, etc. And I think our conversation should explore where we go to with this, how we make it work, because there's the issue of the black tax, where your income compared to your contemporaries in your workplace, etc., goes slightly less because you have to, there's a tax that the government system does not account for. And how do we want to do that forever? I don't necessarily have a problem if I can afford to. But on the flip side, am I happy every day when I wake up and I see that my contemporaries in Nigeria, people I went to school with, some very intelligent people, etc., are begging for meals every day? They're begging for peanuts to survive, to pay school fees, etc., etc. And unfortunately, we are part of that system. We're contributing to the preservation of that system. That's not our intention, but because we're insulating the political class, we're giving them the opportunity to then be degenerate and divert funds elsewhere. And I think that's an issue that we want to bring up in the open and discuss and perhaps explore how we can do things differently.
So that's a really great take and well and explicitly explained. So even from that, right, you can see where the problem is from the opinions and discussion that Dr. B has outlined there. We have a huge gap. And because we are always subsidizing this government, what government responsibilities are meant to be, where we are taking the pressure off them. Do you think that this is actually, or are we really proud of being the world's biggest remittance economy, or is this dressed up as a success story? How can we, or what can we do, like Dr. Abiye say, to actually stop this sort of reliance on the diaspora and for citizens to start holding government accountable? What do you think we can do?
I want to start off by saying thank you to Dr. Abi, because I didn't really think of it that way, because you just painted a picture for me, which is quite shocking. Tells me that when we send money back home for whatever needs, the government don't have to do whatever, because now we're doing the work of the government, and now they can take away that money and put it somewhere. I didn't see it that way, and it's a nice picture that you painted over there. How can we solve the problem? I don't think it's we who are abroad that can solve the problem, because we don't live there. We can't hold the government in Nigeria accountable. We can help amplify whatever the people in Nigeria decides to do, and that could be by voting. And most people don't want to come out to vote because they believe their vote doesn't count, or they believe that all government is the same. I think the last election turnout last year was the lowest in the country. I can't remember what the figures are, but it just shows that people have lost confidence in the government and in the electoral body. So it started off with voting rights, but when people think their vote doesn't count or everyone is the same, how far can we go? And when people have voted right, they need to demand and hold government accountable. I think to solve that problem, we have to start looking at what are we sending money for? Are we sending money for education, to pay tuition, for food, or for healthcare? What is it exactly? Are people where exactly is this money going into? And if we see that most of the money is going into education, then we know that we have to hold government accountable to provide better schools and make it affordable or even free, at the very least, maybe primary education free for the citizens. So I think it boils down to voting rights and following up with your vote and holding government accountable so they can fulfill their election promises.
And Julius, quickly, I think Vivian has been nice. I think we need to be a bit more radical. I think you're touching on the right direction in terms of voting. And I think that we have to start introducing some conditions, even if the base of that condition is about tying support. It's about tying support to voting. I think that's the case, because I'd say I grew up in the South. I spent some time in the North, and I'm privileged to have family from Delta and Benin area. And one of the things growing up as a young person was I would use the word disappearance, but movement of young persons. So you go to Osasi's place today, or you ask his mom, where's Osas? Osas don't go abroad, and something like that. But tell me, so people just emigrated. And then maybe it was fine, but now I can see how we've perpetrated a system where you've got to have somebody abroad. You've got to go abroad because there's a way we've insulated ourselves. And so my mom in the last election, and people may slate me for this, I said to her, if you're not voting, I'll stop supporting you. It's harsh, but we need to get to that position. I said that to my sisters, and I pushed them out to vote. Your vote may not count, true, and they may rig it. Go out and vote, make a habit. At least make it difficult for these people. Make it difficult for these people. You know why in the last 3 years, immigration in Canada has become a big issue, or became a big issue? Because nobody is going to send anybody in Canada money from abroad. The same reason in the US and in the UK. If we start having problems with, stuff, people turn to immigration. Because my white neighbors, nobody's going to send them money from Australia or send them money from Nigeria. If the system does not cater for them, they have nothing. So they will shut down that system. They don't have the insulation. And this is the paradox that we are facing. But I'm sorry to say there are no soft touches, because if you build schools, you're still contributing to cash flow. Remember, the cash flow is you send money to your mom. She needs to feed. So she has some money to go and buy stuff in the market. The woman in the market that will go and tie wrapper or something and dance for a governor that's impoverishing her and even shutting his eyes whilst your brothers and sisters are being killed. She will buy food from that woman. That woman will think she's getting money from within the system and will tie wrapper and dance for that governor. And the governor is fine. But if your mom does not go to buy food from that woman and she loses 1,000 of her customers, she begins to think deeply. And if what she needs to do is to vote, she suddenly realizes that the value of 12,000 or 10,000 or 5,000 at elections is nothing. Nigerians are happy to collect 2,000 because you are going to foot the bill. Foot the bill for their children's education, foot the bill, etc. And I don't want to sound like, we're doing everything. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that there is a big part of Nigeria's cash flow that we're subsidizing and managing. We need to do something with that cash flow. So yes, I agree. If it comes to voting, push people to go and vote. Make it a condition. Go and get your PVC. Send me your PVC so that I can send you money, so that I know at least you have a PVC. Yeah? And then we can talk about, you can vote for whoever you want to vote, but participate in the civic process. You've got to do that. We've got to move people towards that. Sorry for cutting in, but yeah.
So that's the macro picture. Now let's bring this down to where it actually lives. which is your bank app, on a Sunday evening, in a phone call you took during your lunch break, in that mental math you do every month between rent and the people you love. We are going to talk about the black tax now, which exactly is what you two have been talking about. Black tax, the unofficial monthly transfer that comes out of every diaspora salary before rent, before bills, before anything. Most of us don't budget for it. It just happened. And I want to argue something that I haven't heard anyone say clearly. Black tax is not actually a tax. A tax is collected by a state with obligation to you. Black tax is collected by a country that has stopped pretending to have an obligation or any obligation to you. So I'll give you or paint a picture and give you tell you a story. Recently, one of my friends, he was checking how much he sent home for one of the project he's running, the palm oil business is running home. And we use this app called Lemfi. So before I come to you to ask how much have you sent home, hypothetically, how much have you sent in a month? I checked my app and I helped him. We were checking through Lemfi and I checked my app. And in 2 years, I had sent 28,000 something home to people. That's not to do any projects. I sent 28,000 pounds as a gift to people. People calling me, buzzing my phone, and I checked. I actually went to my GT Bank and I checked. And this is actually true. And I'm seeing people's list. Do you know the pressure I've taken off the government? And if, like Dr. B said, if I haven't been taking care of these people or looking after them, they will be forced to vote right and be thinking about who should be my leader and who should be there that will represent my interests. So I am in some ways helping to fund bad governance because I'm taking pressure away from the government by helping all these people. And you know the crazy things, as soon as you start helping one, they become your responsibility. And this is not, I'm not saying this in case anyone sees this video. I'm not saying that you can't ask me for stuff going forward. You can still ask. If I have it, I will still help. But the truth is, the pressure keeps coming. And that's not because they just love asking. It's because they are put in a position where they have no other option than to beg. But I still stand strongly with Dr. Abiy that if I am going to send you money and I see you supporting leaders, the failed leaders, please don't call me for money because I'm going to start taking that stance going forward. That if I send you money and you're not also thinking about yourself going forward, because if we have leaders who have created industries, like we have Amazon, like we have Lidl, like we have different industries, and these people can work for themselves and go and do a 9 to 5 and work for themselves and make money. If there was security, like we say, if there was security, there's a good road, good power, and people can go and work and make income for themselves. They won't pressure me. And that's why we're saying that indirectly, I think we are funding bad governance. So I will let any of you come on and tell me in a single month, do you feel pressured? Calls from home. Be honest. Do you feel pressured? Because we have our own budget here. We have our own responsibilities here. But month in, month out, you have like a list of people calling you and you have no choice than to help. Do you feel pressured to do this? And this also, to anyone watching, do you feel pressured that every month you're thinking you're going to be taxed? And we call it a black tax. Vivian, I'll come to you first.
Well, luckily for me, there's no pressure to send any money back home. So when you talked about how much it sends back, 20-something thousand, I'm like, oh wow. Well, I guess I'm lucky. I get to send my sisters money when they need it or because they're also in school. So when they want, so yeah, I can't relate to this because there's no pressure for me to send any money.
Dr. Abiy,
I wouldn't say there's pressure on me. It's almost like would I say a balance? So you when you leave home, you have certain expectations that come with it. I think I've been able to. Sorry. I think there's some. Okay, thanks. Like I said, luckily for me, I don't think there's that kind of pressure. And as a person, I have learned to manage things effectively. I support when I can. I don't really. Sometimes, if it's close family, you see it almost as a duty because they supported you to get to where you are, and for that you're grateful. So I wouldn't say that there is that kind of pressure. From time to time, it does arise, or there's something to do, or NEPA has come to, or the transformer is down, everybody needs to contribute money, etc., and blah, 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 or this person's child needs school fees, etc. So I manage the pressure. Not everyone is good with that. I don't necessarily lose sleep. I wouldn't say regularly on a monthly basis. Maybe once or twice a year, there are things that come up and it really, I don't want to do it, but I'm forced to because, if you don't do it, then it's this way. So that's why I would say. So I am not completely insulated from it, but I have learned from a very young age how to manage pressure. So you're my friend, you probably say, Abiye does what he wants to do most of the time. And, I say to everyone, as long as I make a decision that when I sleep at night, I have peace, that I haven't done anyone wrong, I am fine, even if it means calling my mother's bluff. And I have done it a number of times. So, yeah. But I also think, Julius, that in relation to your point, whether about the spending and the volume, it's about your mental state. So in my planning, there is some money that I expect a little. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big. I think what I want us to push out in the conversation or to be able to ruminate on is this idea of cash flow. Yeah, a bad company, a struggling company can survive for long if it has cash flow. As long as cash is coming in, you can pay staff every month. You can be, you don't have to be big on the books. But if you do not have cash flow, then you've got a problem. And this is where I think that people, that realization sort of dawns on you that actually, there's money in Nigeria, this politician has so much money, or they're spending on this, they can buy cars, etc. He's not bothered because you're not going to get 100,000 people on the street protesting against him or clamoring for their rights because somebody somewhere somehow trickling, you send money to your mom to pay, your sisters to pay for their school fees, lecturers can get money to pay for this, etc. You're supporting a cash flow within an economy, and politicians can keep what they want in their pockets. We need to break that cycle.
Thank you, Dr. B. So I welcome Dr. Farouk. If you can put your, I don't know if you can put your camera on, but if you can, that's fine. So welcome, Dr. Farouk. For that, Farouk Suleiman is a friend, and I told him that he can join the early meeting, so he just joined us in this conversation. So welcome, Dr. Farouk. Before you join, we were, and so on your left is Vivian, and up there is Dr. BA too. So before you join, we were talking about black tax and the remittance back home. And I was saying that what if our pain is exactly all our remittance back home, sending money to families, thinking we're helping family, is what's allowing the system, Nigeria, to stay broken. Because like Dr. B, before you joined, he also painted some picture, and Vivian also makes some very good case as well, where we continue to send money home. And we talked about 20-point-something billion being sent home as remittance. And that is more than federal direct investment yearly by any standard. What if our pain is exactly what's allowing the system stay broken? Do you think that is what's allowing the system stay broken because the citizens are no more holding the people or the government accountable, and they feel that, we have our brother or our sister abroad that will solve our problem even if the government is not responding to us? Do you think that is the issue, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Julius. I'm sorry again that I'm a bit late. I was on a catch-up in a meeting with my official duties earlier. So, yes. So in the issue, I've been briefed before, so even though I've not picked your brains yet on, the conversation as it started. But I actually do agree that, the kind of behavior we are kind of encouraging the behavior through this black tax that we do, but the government will feel like they can relent. Because even one other example is something like, I don't feel bad that the Ministry of Youth, I think, is it the Ministry of Culture and Youth or something like that, is the minister. They're more, I think what captivates them is how they can generate revenue from, not now, like, it's Nigerians coming back home to maybe celebrate 30 December and things like that. These are things that you can see that they're listening, they're prioritizing those kind of things because they know that a lot of the way we sustain what's going on in Nigeria is by collecting revenue from us who are, abroad and doing what we're doing. So I kind of agree that we are kind of, would I say we're part of that kind of encouragement that they should, continue having those lapses and feel relaxed. Because civic duties that we are doing back home in a country that we don't even benefit from because we're not there. Any CSR that you're doing in a particular place should be actually where you are actually working or making your income. Now we're sending money back, supporting families. There's no thing like any social care, social services for our people. Everything we have to do for them, you have to buy them anything they need to get ahead in life. So in my point, I think we're actually encouraging that kind of lapse in our governance. But I also do not if we stop helping out, that Nigeria will pick up. Because I don't think that government actually is concerned about the people. In my own thinking, I don't think they would actually look into the line like, okay, maybe Nigerians are shying away. And also, these are your family members. You have to actually, do what it takes to, get everybody through. So yes, we have that lapse and we're encouraging that, but I don't know how we can correct that narrative. That's my own.
I see Dr. Abi, when you're making your point, I see that he was eager to push back. So Dr. Abi, can you tell us?
As I said, I'm a bit radical on this. And I'm a parent. My kids are young. Sometimes you do tough love. And if you know me, I mean, Jesus has known me for almost 2 decades. I love my family. I love my parents and stuff. But at the same time, I think that you cannot continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect something different. Einstein, you've got to try something different. You've got to learn from your mistakes. At what point do we learn from our mistakes? At what point do you say, okay, probably it's time to maybe, give someone a little nudge to say, yeah, let's do something different. Let's change. We're growing older. Many of us will want to maybe go home and relax. You want to live in peace. Every time I see a report where people are killed and the government is completely nonchalant, I realize now that I am part of those that are supporting that system. Every time I see kids that are going to classrooms to study where teachers are underpaid, there is no infrastructure, I am part of that system. Every time that I see people in the market that are under unkept conditions and, poor sanitation, I am part of that system. And I'm taking responsibility, I'm taking accountability, and I intend to take action in my own small way. In fact, I had modeled a scenario where, based on current data, we remit in total about $1.2 billion per month, $1.39 billion a month to Nigeria, generally. If we were to withhold 80% of that within 2 months, Nigeria changes immediately because you have civil unrest. The question is, do we have the ability to hold pain and see our loved ones maybe struggle or suffer for a bit to force that change? Most of us are not ready to do that. So it's either we keep quiet and stop complaining about the situation in Nigeria, or we begin to think about ways to actually impact and influence the system. But we cannot idle and continue to support the same system because if this was law, you'd say it's indirect manslaughter or it's manslaughter or, every time a bandit is collecting money and killing people, we're funding the system. Because I'll draw a reference and I'll keep quiet after this. If you go back to NSAS, what happened some years ago, I have never seen Nigerian politicians so shaken in a long time. And I know that it kind of collapsed because there wasn't complete congruence between the South and Northern parts and that movement. But Nigerian politicians were shaking, people were running, they were all panicking, etc. And I always say this to Nigerians whenever I visit: you don't know the powers that you have in your numbers. You don't realize numbers are significant. As a young child, I saw Aquinas run from Philippines because less than 1 million people marched on the streets and the soldiers dropped their arms and went with them. So you've got to help people to see the power that they have. And sometimes to help them see the powers that they have is to pull the rug from under their feet, because then people realize that actually we're more than these politicians. We're more than all the soldiers in Nigeria combined. We're more than all the policemen. In fact, one state, if 2 million Nigerians were to march in one state and ask for good governance, there is no security paraphernalia. There's no political will that overrides that. The question is, what's the impetus for 2 million people to come out? Now, people say, oh, some people will die. People are dying every day. Every day. It may not just be people close to us, but as we speak in Kaduna, in Plateau, in different parts, they're dying every day for nothing. Die for something if you have to. Live for something if you have to. March for something if you have to. Stand for something if you have to. But if the rug doesn't get pulled or shaken from people's feet, we'll stay in our comfort zone, and then we should all just keep quiet.
That's an amazing take. And I want to make an argument, and I want you to push back hard on it. In a normal, just like Dr. B just said, using the NSAS reference, in a normal functioning country, When the government fails to deliver schools, the middle class revolts. When the hospital collapse, the professional class revolts. When jobs disappear, the young revolts. And people keep revolting. Politicians, electoral and social is what forces government. All of this sort of revolution is what forces government to improve. But in Nigeria, the people most likely to revolt have done something else first. They have left, and the people who stayed are being cautioned just enough by the money from the people who left. That is us. We have left, and we keep cautioning them, sending money all the time. Like Dr. BN said, do we have that guts to say no? As in all the diaspora, in one voice, do we have a union where we can say, let us just help, hold back? Can we see our people suffer for 1 month? Hold back this remittance and see the effect it will have on the economy. So the political pressure that should be building it never builds because we keep cautioning all of this. Do we have these guts to stop sending and unite as one in one voice? We know that when we say that, some people will continue to send to their parents, but that will be a few. But if Nigerians abroad in diaspora said today, let's stop sending, like Dr. B said, I promise as well that things will change. But do we have that guts to do that? Vivian, I'll come to you. And what do you think? Because we're rounding up slowly now. I'll come to you to make your point.
I think Dr. B is going to get upset with what I'm saying again. But anyways, I don't think we do, but I think we can. And that is evident in every aspect of a Nigerian. You hear people say things like Nigerians are good at adjusting at whatever the government throws at them. That's why you see even in a hospital when there is no, like the incident in Enugu State where there's no electricity, there's no water, the nurses are still comfortable working there. They cannot come together as a union to say, I'm not going to work until the government provides this and that and that. You see teachers teaching in schools where there's no roof or the roof is leaking. The teachers cannot come together and say, we will not teach unless the government does this. Where I work, we have a union. If we don't get what we expect from our bosses, we are going to stir up problems. We are going to say we can't continue to work unless we fix this and fix that. So I think we lack that as a people, but I think we can build it. How we can build it, I don't know. Maybe Dr. B can let us know.
Before Farouk, Julius, I wanted to give a task to everyone. Go into ChatGPT or Gemini or something and ask the question, if 80 or 70% of remittances were to be withheld for a month or two, what would be the impact on the Nigerian life? And share your answers with us.
But anyway, I don't know about the ChatGPT from, but I know the way ChatGPT works sometimes, maybe if it's trained itself based on your own emotions, it might actually give you a kind of, but holistically, because I could ask that question to ChatGPT and it could give me a different, because I haven't really done the numbers, but I wouldn't think that the contribution of the diaspora, yes, it's huge, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that impact would actually make a change like we were saying. Because, people that actually kind of champion and push for most of this revolution and things are people that don't benefit from, would I say, foreign black tax, whatever. Even going back to NSAS, those are the people who started when I think some of them were celebrities, and a few other people. Like at some point they wanted Two-Face to champion it, then he came out. These were people that had the power of media. The people in Nigeria now that have the power of media to move those mandates would not be. I don't think that's actually a kind of set-off point for them. So they would not push for that kind of revolution in my eyes. Then also the impact, like I said, in the grand scheme of things, if we were to withhold, I haven't done the numbers, like I said, but I don't think it's enough to actually true. The money, the rice,
I think
the whole mandate for 4 years. Can you hear me?
And you just came back now. Yeah, you just.
Oh, sorry. I think maybe it's the internet. So the rice that Tinubu and then I don't want to name names. We're not in politics, but I'm just using Tinubu because he's in government now. Every other politician, every other president, they will share rice at the end of the election period, and people give up their mandate for that. So I don't see where when things like that happen and the government just comes and be like, okay, we set up so and so condition, we bribe some people that are in power and all that. People will go back. We're very docile people. There's a lot of things externally that made us the way we are. Religion is a good thing, but somehow religion also makes us, let's leave it to God. No, it's like that. Our time will come. So we always have that kind of mindset. So it would not really trigger that kind of response, except, will I say, the middle class, celebrity class, is something that would actually bite them, that they would actually start to scream and shout. Then people will.
Yeah,
That's
Dr.
my
Abia,
point.
you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr.
Let
Abia,
Vivian go first.
yeah, I've come to Vivian first. Yeah.
No, I just want to add something. He said he has not done the numbers. I just want to give him the numbers so that he knows what we're talking about. So Nigeria receives $20.9 billion, and we receive 37% of the remittance that goes to sub-Saharan Africa, and it contributes to 4 to 5% of our GDP. So it's not a lot, but it's
a lot.
It's a lot at the same time. Yeah.
It's huge.
So I just want him to know, sir.
Okay, and that is such a good number. Before Dr. Abia will add, Harold, just imagine this. I know how many people you have under you that you send money every month. Just cut off those people. Let me cut off. I gave a number and that was from LEM5. I'm telling you the honest truth. That was from only LEM5. I used to use other money transfer, but from only LEM5, I sent 20 something, almost 28,000 home in 2 years.
Wow.
Dash, not for any project. Heaven bears me witness, not for any project, right? Dash to direct siblings, cousins, and nephews, extended families, friends. Most people, if I show you my GT bank, you think I'm a Nigerian politician, right? If I cut off that, you cut off that, Vivian cut off the sister, Dr. Abia cut off everyone, the mother and everyone. Tell me when these people, they are not, it's not that they are not working, but they are not earning enough, because what you're sending to them, most of them don't end up to like 500,000 naira a month. But what you send to them is more than that, right? When you cut that off, how are they going to pay for that, their child's school fee or emergency health care or feeding or emergency food, emergency cash that they're calling for? By the time they don't have that, everybody, there will be an unrest. People start stealing. The upper class will feel it, and they will be forced to do something, and revolution will just start. Trust me, if you cut off this 20-something billion a year for just 2 months, so just cut it off for 2 months, you will see the ripple effect. It will be huge. So Dr. Abia, I'll come to you.
Okay, just quickly. So I've run the numbers, and AI suggests, or the internet suggests, that we're to withhold 80% of remittances for 2 months. Your government collapses. Nigerian government collapses. Now, I would draw reference to this with Brexit. So I was here during Brexit vote, and I knew people, we had conversations, etc. My research background extends to logistics management, supply chain management. And one of the things I often used to say to people is, when you understand supply chains, you suddenly understand why it's difficult to break out of blocks or out of trade systems. So Brexit was always going to be a disaster. I was 100% certain about that. Imagine a spider that moves around its web, and you slash part of its web. What happens? You have sort of incapacitated that spider. And we often see just our family members as the people that money is going to. And I reiterate, the money you send to your mom or sisters or friend, whether it's for school fees, feeding, rent, etc., it trickles down. And when it trickles down, it keeps cash flow. When cash flow dries up, there's a problem in your society. You see those celebrities you're talking about. Every time maybe Faz has a show, people pay for it. People pay for it because somebody is buying their products and they have income. If people do not buy their products, they have no income, they will cry. Now, 2 things can happen. When the economy is struggling, the money that your politicians are keeping and stealing and using for whatever will have to come into the economy. And that's a good thing. Yeah? Because what it then means is that they would spend that money to keep the cash flow going. And if that's all we achieve, I think that's fantastic. But you cannot say that. I know that AI figures may be wrong, but it's suggesting that your government will literally collapse after 2 months at 80%. So if you did 100% within a month, it would go, because people will be on the street. People can only.
Yeah.
So
just a quick.
Before you come back quickly, before you make your point, Dr. Farouk, here's what I noticed in all of this. None of us has a clean answer, right? And I think that it's the honest position. The diaspora did not create bad governance, yes, but the diaspora may not be one of the things keeping bad governance alive. Both can be true. And let's sit with that. So I'll come to each of you to just make your point in 30 seconds, because we want to run up. This conversation has been interesting so much for me. And I wish I had more time, or we have more time, because we all want to go back to our day job. But it's been an interesting, and Vivian woke up so early. Maybe she's about to go to work. So in her place. And Farouk, you came from your break. So in 30 seconds, maximum 40 seconds. Can you make your closing remark? And also, what will be your message to the Nigerian people that you're helping, the Nigerian government, and most especially the leader of the diaspora, the Nigerian in diaspora? What will be your message to them if they come across this video? What can we do to help change the way things are in Nigeria? Because I don't like it. It's not that I hate giving, but I would be more satisfied. Just like every one of us here in the UK, people care for themselves and people go to work. I'll be more happy to see that an average Nigerian citizen can go to work and fend for themselves. What will be your message? Farouk, let me come because you already.
Okay, I thought you were going to go with me first. But yeah, coming to what you said, Dr. Abi, I actually agree. Without what I was nodding my head. So I agree to the point where I'm not too ambitious, but I would say to the point where aristocrats or the people that are in power that know that have what they are doing, they would be able to now get to a point where they will have to bring out their own money, inject it into the economy. All those money that are stolen, people will be like, if you don't bring out this money, they'll then have some more rest because people are hungry. So I agree to that point. However, also have the real, and another point I was going to make as well is that it's actually good if we can cut off this supply, because there are also some people who are taking advantage of, this kind of, when they know that you can always get somebody to send you money. So there's a lot of things that have to go with, like, okay, let's be imaginative. Let's try and do a new business structure. I know Nigeria is not too good, but it would actually make people push, to find out what other things they can do to actually get money. So it would make them more productive as well. But in the grand scheme of things, I still feel there's a lot more we need to do. There's a lot more to do. And because there's so many breakouts in there's a lot more to do.
That's great.
I think your last message is to the government, right? You said if the government was to... I don't usually make comments about the government, but I don't feel they don't prioritize anything. So, so that's my own take.
Thank you. Vivian, in just 20 seconds, what will be your final word?
Well, I think I'm going to use Dr. Abi's tactics with my sisters too. I'm going to tell them you have to register to vote. After this conversation, I'm going to put in a family group chat so that they all know that they have to get their PVC and they have to vote for change. And they can't vote this government again. I know they want to. But anyways, I'm going to make sure I put that in our family group chat. And what can I say to the government? Honestly, the government doesn't care, and I can't do much. Only the people who live in Nigeria can do a lot. The government responds to pressure. I don't know how much social media pressure can move them, but I know that physical pressure on ground can actually do a lot. But I'm always available to, lend my voice, speak out, form groups that are on ground doing things. I can contribute in that aspect, but I don't know what else I can do.
Thank you so much, Vivian. Dr. Abiy, I won't be able to take your final thought, but you can give me your final thought.
I'll just say, I think that we can continue this conversation next time, especially looking at potential solutions. So I would leave it at that. I've said a lot of things, so I think we can have another session. We can have a part 2 to this discussion.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to have a part 2 to this discussion. It's been an amazing discussion, and I want a part 2 because I haven't finished my question to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. We would continue this conversation in the part 2. So look out for part 2. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
All right.